Weeks after a disastrous storm, Mother Nature's wrath and the impact thereof can still be seen in the Western Cape. For those who don't recall, heavy rains had left hundreds of desperate people displaced as their homes had flooded. Infrastructure and roads were also destroyed, while nearly a dozen people lost their lives. eNCA reporter Kevin Brandt is on the ground now, checking on the progress made as mop-up operations are still underway. So let's cross over to him now for the very latest. And Kevin, a very warm good morning to you. How's it looking in as far as mop-up operations are concerned from where you stand?
A very good morning to you, Tumelo. Well, rebuilding is still going ahead here in the Western Cape, as officials still have a number of areas that needs attention, as you've seen the destruction in communities, particularly Salaris Pass. We've also been to a community in the Kraaifontein area, also made our way to Franschhoek. Large-scale devastation following the rainstorm that the Western Cape has experienced. The initial figure that we got at the time was that 7,100 informal structures have been affected due to the heavy rain and stormy weather conditions that we've had. But here to explain a bit more about the City of Cape Town's interventions with regard to that and mapping the way forward for residents affected by this adverse weather is Carl Popham. He is the Human Settlements Mayoral Committee member here for the city. Carl, thank you so much for joining us. Just from a housing and a human settlements perspective, how many residents are still in need of a roof over their head?
No, thanks so much, Kevin, and a very good morning to your viewers. Indeed, a tragedy right over the metropole, but we've seen great effects in the Helderberg Basin, and I spoke to you on the day as well. We've now seen a dry up of the operation, and now we need to go and rebuild. And our teams have been out. You spoke to a figure of just over 7,000. We're waiting for final figures to come in. Those are preliminary, but it's also nuanced because different structures was affected in different ways. Specifically to Salaris Pass, I've given a clear instruction to the directorate that where we've seen structures completely decimated because they were in the reach of the flood, they need to be relocated. We're currently in the process of identifying land for that relocation so that we can ensure this does not happen again, particularly in the Salaris Pass area. Crucial to this, however, and this rebuild agenda is to ensure that the National Department delivers on quicker turnaround times for our structures and our starter kits. We understand Minister Kubai's position to have centralized the grant because we've found corruption in various municipalities across South Africa. But in the city of Cape Town, when it was decentralized, we were competent, we did it in quicker turnaround times, and we're calling on the Minister to decentralize it to competent municipalities like the City of Cape Town Metro so our response can be faster. So we're working very closely with those communities to ensure we're not doing mass rebuilding, but we're focusing on where the need is dire, and our teams have been on the ground, and I'm very proud of the work we've done.
Just in terms of relief aid for the affected residents, as far as you know, are there still residents being housed in community halls and other places that were made available by the city?
Yeah, very minimal. We've got within the Makassa area, we had an emergency need because communities in formal housing, in fact, was literally flooded in their homes. And so I would say we need to go rescue those residents in that area. I'm visiting them on Friday to engage. We had a situation within the Salaris Pass where we had an immediate relief to house them in community facilities, but we also need to be very careful because this becomes a coordinated attempt for longer occupation, and that's not what we want for our residents. But that has been very limited. We've seen that many residents have engaged families. We've connected them with their loved ones to make sure that they can be accommodated, and where we could give immediate relief to protect residents, we've done so. But the access to community facilities has been minimum.
Carl, there's also sadly been a very tragic accident in Philippi where children were electrocuted. What interventions is the city planning to prevent such incidents from happening in future?
No, absolutely. It's tragic, and we saw the loss of lives, and particularly lives of children. And so I think it's been the standard response that where we are in the landowners, we cannot intervene. But as an MMC in this government, in this Lewis administration, that's not good enough for me. And so I've worked very closely now with my colleague in Energy, Councillor Beverly van Renen, to say let's have our departments do a triage of where we have illegal connections and where we have the highest security risk. And we are going to intervene with the landowners and with ESCOM, where it is their connections, to make sure we have safer connections. We're already doing that in the city. Councillor Van Renen has been doing that excellently, and so we'll continue with that in our informal settlements. But for me, it's a priority that even if we're not the landowner, and even if the connection is under ESCOM, we cannot lose life. But it's also a clarion call to residents. You cannot connect illegally. Engage the city. Even if it's an ESCOM area, engage us so we can work with you to find legal connections. But when we have illegal connections in our communities and in our informal settlements, the loss of life is imminent. I saw it in Killepierville when I did my first tour of sites, and immediately we were able to intervene. But we need communities to work with us. I know it's frustrating. I know it's difficult not having a connection, but an illegal connection could leave you with a loss of life, and we don't want that for our residents.
Carl, thank you very much for your time. Tumelo, that was Carl Popham. He's the mayoral committee member for human settlements here in the city of Cape Town, mapping out interventions that the city has put in place to address the storm-affected communities here within the city, but also outlining the importance of illegal electric connections and saying that the city will intervene there as well. As far as the roads here in the Western Cape are concerned, there are still a number of roads still closed. This morning, Chapman Speed Drive was opened following the damage to that passageway, but the officials there also indicate that work is underway to address some of the challenges when it comes to the infrastructure in the province. Tumelo?
And we'll continue, of course, keeping a close eye on how those operations are going, Kevin Brandt, out in the Western Cape. We've all witnessed, just the ramifications of those bad weather storms out in the Western Cape, but equally so the impact on people's lives. Thanks, colleague Kevin Brandt, for us on the story.